there's a responsibility that we all have that's bigger than ourselves. We're here for a reason. And I can't allow your foolishness to stop me from pursuing my destiny.
You are now tuning in to the Going North podcast with your host, best-selling author, professional speaker, and member of the John Maxwell team, Dominic Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday, we're going to hear the voice of a different author sharing their gifts, stories, and expertise to help you charge forward in life. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we bring you some fabulous humans from across the globe. Today is no different. Well, actually, it's kind of different. I feel like it's every 30 episodes or so we get a TEDx speaker, and today is one of those occasions because we got not only a best-selling author of multiple books, we also have a TEDx speaker who not only is a TEDx speaker, but this fabulous lady right here was actually part of a documentary called Friendly Captivity, a film that follows a cast of 7 women from Dallas all the way to India. And this fabulous author right here is also an award-winning author of several honors and was even featured in 2019's Dallas Business Journal's Women in Business honoree, as well as Alpha Kappa Alpha Incorporated, Big Global Heart 2014-2012 Outstanding African American Alumni Award from the University of Texas in Arlington, 2009 Woman of the Year, and the list goes on and on like an ancient scroll in the Chinese Ming Dynasty. So let's give it up for the one, the only fabulous lady herself, Miss FBD, Dr. Froswa Booker-Drew. How are you today, ma'am?
I am doing well. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you. So thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure indeed. My pleasure indeed. It's great to have some melanin connection on the show. So that way the knowledge can expand and I can call you Queen Mother Earth, and then I can go into my whole pyramid head phase and talk about the
I
UFOs.
feel like burning incense. I think I'm
Oh,
going to burn
good.
some
All right.
incense right now.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about indeed. All the consciousness. That's right. Staying woke with no
Yes.
sleep.
And I have a joke. Some of the problem is some people have insomnia, and maybe they may need to take a nap every once in a while because they've been woke for a long time.
Yeah. It reminds me of that Paul Mooney joke where he talked about how he may have been born yesterday, but he stayed up all night getting that knowledge. I'm like, okay. Yep.
Okay.
I was laughing my butt off. I'm like, I'm still using that.
Yes.
Even though it's bad health.
Very much so.
But what's good health is all of your energy because you're trailblazing, because you're featuring all these magical places, and the train ain't stopping. So for those who don't know and want to turn the page behind the resume, who is the one and only Dr. Froswa?
I'm someone who cares a lot, and I think that comes through with all of the things that I try to do, whether it is the TEDx talk that you mentioned, and really focusing on relationships. In my writing, I really think what I am trying to convey is that relationships are important. And so I think if anyone were to ask, who am I think at the core of that question is really about the importance to me of human connection and how I try to live that in everything I do.
There you go. That's right. Living it out in every way you Mountain Dew. That's right. That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's right. All the way from the South. Even have your roots down in Shreveport, Louisiana out here.
Yes, that's my home. I miss it because now with quarantine, we are not able to do that travel. But yeah, that place has such an imprint on who I am, and growing up in the Deep South, especially as an African-American female, really has a way of shaping your perspective about life and relationships, So shout out to my hometown and the community I grew up in, which was called Cedar Grove, and just an amazing place that small, not a real big city, although it's one of the bigger cities in the state. It's not big comparatively speaking to Dallas, but it was a place that just was so instrumental in forming who I am now.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about right there. That's right. I always give a shout out to the hometown indeed. And definitely growing up as a black woman in the South, like that can really have a huge impact on your upbringing, especially if you make it through that whole phase and live to tell the tale about it and just see how I'm guessing it's not much difference once you go out of the small town. It may not be as in your face, I imagine.
I think that's the thing for me that is so different than for a lot of my friends who come from places like Seattle and other parts of the country. I grew up knowing that there were certain areas in the community as a kid. And again, this is in the 70s and 80s, that there were certain parts of the community that at night you may not want to be in. And so it was one of those things where you're like, well, okay, that's fine. And I grew up knowing that. And I grew up knowing that there were people who may not like me because of the complexion of my skin. And so even though, I was in the group of folks who came to schools that were starting to become integrated and had a history of doing that for a little bit, those experiences were still there and racism was still prevalent. But I always knew that it existed. And I think for some people, especially in this ideal of a post-racial society, that people believe that, we've had a Black president, and you're seeing now the evidence of, even though there has been a lot of progress, there is still a lot of challenges, and we know that it's still embedded heavily in our society. And so I think having the experience in Shreveport allowed me not to be confused as to how detrimental that way of thinking can be to a person. And yet, even with that existing, I still had family, and I had people who loved me, and I had a community that supported me and cheered me on. And I learned, in the church, speaking and doing all these different things. And so in spite of this very, horrible experience a lot of people went through, I remember hearing stories of family members and some of the things that they went through in high school around racism and just the local government. Even with that going on, I still had spaces of support. And so it's not to minimize the impact of what happens with racism and white supremacy, but I also was able to be okay because there were people around me who loved me and supported me and didn't allow that to be something that would stop me from moving forward and progressing and doing some of the things that I've been able to do.
That's right. That's right. The racists can have their day, but they ain't stopping this progress. That's right.
No.
That's right. This train is going to keep going. Choo choo, indeed.
Well, and the bigger thing is, I think there's a responsibility that we all have that's bigger than ourselves. We're here for a reason. And I can't allow your foolishness to stop me from pursuing my destiny. And there are people that it has done that to. But if I can continue to do the work that I do, and I will, I can't allow that to stop me from reaching what I believe is my God-given potential. And so I don't allow that I don't ignore it. I think it's crazy to ignore it. It exists and it's a problem, and it has to be addressed. At the same time, and I always tell my daughter about this ideal of both and, because I think in our world, sometimes we get in this space of everything is either or. And the reality is, no, that exists. It's a both and I can still do things that even when doors close, I'm still able to find my way and do things that are for my good and for my benefit and that help people as well.
Oh, yeah, dropping them gems from the necklace right there, the wisdom necklace, not letting your foolishness stop my God-given destiny. That's what I'm talking about.
That's a t-shirt.
Yes, it is. That's right. Where can I snag them?
I need to go on and make them up. That's an entrepreneurial opportunity right there, especially in quarantine. We got plenty of time for many folks to do that. But it's one of those things where you just can't allow the barriers, and they will exist. You're going to have them. I've had them. you will have barriers. You just can't allow those things to stop you from moving forward into what you know is destiny and pushes you toward being your best self.
That's what I'm talking about because you're also an expert on social capital and networking. So you're able to move in many different places and all over the world, actually.
Trying. I've been a few places trying to do more of that. Yeah, social capital is something that I love. I had no idea what the term was, and I was working on a PhD, and my advisor told me, you really need to check out this term because this is who you are and what you do. And I was like, okay, let's see, because I had other ideas of what I wanted to explore. And when I learned more about social capital, which is this ideal about relationships, networks, associations, and how people build relationships, I became intrigued and started really exploring more about the different concepts around social capital. Like there's bonding social capital, which is what we all do, is connecting to people that are just like us. And that's easy. I think the challenge is helping people to think about, what does bridging social capital look like? What does it mean to connect to people who are different than you are, both in ethnicity, but in other ways, in terms of ideology, gender, socioeconomic status? How do you connect to people that are different than you? Because what we do know is that when we're around people that are just like us, we're sharing the same kind of information. It could be helpful, no doubt, but when you're around people that are very different than you are, there is information and access to resources that you may not have any idea about. And I think we miss out so much when we limit our ability to do both, which is the bonding and bridging. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be with people that there's this familiar spirit and you vibe with each other and connect. That's a beautiful thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But if that's the only space that you remain in, then you miss opportunities really for the expansion of your horizons and for your own growth. And so social capital just became something that I love. Now, I will say this, and I say it all the time, I have an issue with the word because I don't think our relationships are capital in the sense of they're about transaction. That's a piece of it. A lot of our relationships are going to be like that. Not all relationships should solely be about transaction. There has to be a place for a transformation, that when we do connect to each other, that when we leave, we're better people because of it. And so it's something that I spend a lot of time, whether it's in my professional life and even in my personal life, thinking about how do we build relationships really for the greater good, and how does it change us as individuals, but how do we change our communities with the power of coming together and connecting to each other.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And it's powerful right there because it really is a skill that's really needed to be able to build social capital and be able to connect with folks from multiple generations and cultures for the greater good.
Mhm.
Yeah, and fun enough, you are right. A lot of relationships sometimes they end up being transactional because sometimes like, all right, it's like one of those one time things
Right.
from I think it's like what is it, the some people call it the third degree of, I guess, connections, like a person you rarely chat with, but
Yeah.
they sometimes link you to like one of your biggest life victories.
Yeah, I mean, it's like LinkedIn. I mean, let's be honest. There are people on LinkedIn that, it has your first and second and third level of connection. There are people that are out there in that sphere that you don't know necessarily, but there are opportunities to leverage those relationships where they become, someone that you're connecting with. But there are people in our number one level of relationship on a LinkedIn that most of us just friend and we don't know. And I think it's being more intentional about how do you deepen those relationships and getting to know people. To your point, not everybody is going to be transformational. When you go to McDonald's, and I always give this example, when you walk in and you want some fries, you're not really ready to listen to someone tell you the story of their life behind the counter. That's great. You got time for it and you're interested in it. But at that time, really the goal is, I'm giving you some money. I want my fries. That's a transaction. And if relationship happens, that's cool. But that's not always going to be the case. I think it's creating space in our lives for both of those. So how do you know that, this is just going to be, me going in and meeting someone and it may result in X opportunity, or it may end up being an amazing friendship, or they may connect me to the amazing friendship. So I think it's just being more intentional about the way that we build relationships and seeing them as opportunities, that everyone you meet is an opportunity for something wonderful to happen, and changing our mindset from being, oh, here's somebody else that I got to encounter, to who knows what this person could be for me, and the key, or what I could be for them.
Ah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. Oh, yeah. Kind of reminds me of that powerful question where you ask a person after a while, it's like, all right, so who do you know that I should know?
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think we think strategically like that about, when we're talking to people, are there opportunities to leverage relationships that may open up doors for us on so many levels? And it's not always about the financial deal. I mean, that could be a part of it, but that's not solely what it should be. You just never know. I've had some amazing friendships happen because friends said, I need you to connect. I remember a good friend of mine gave me tickets to a play, and he was like, I want you to come because there's someone I want you to meet. And I could have easily said, well, I don't want to go, or I would just want to go see this play. Thank you for free tickets. That ended up becoming, this lady actually became one of my closest and dearest friends. And we've done some amazing things together. She ultimately ended up publishing my last book, but it was because I said yes to that opportunity and being open to meeting her and seeing what would happen. And I did not think in that one meeting it would turn out to be an amazing professional relationship, but the personal piece, she's enhanced my life in so many ways. And I'm so grateful for who she is and what she's done for me as a person. And so I think it's just being open to knowing, possibilities are endless if you allow yourself to be open and believe that anything can happen out of it, and just saying yes and showing up.
That's what I'm talking about. Saying yes and showing up, indeed. Saying yes and showing up, indeed. So, for those who may need to be more open minded in that way when it comes to building that social capital, networking with others, what's helped you to really open your mind to that possibility?
I think it's the experience of coming from Shreveport that was small to coming to Dallas, Fort Worth, and going to school. And I think it was just being open to experiences and challenging myself, even when it was uncomfortable. And I think it's so easy for many of us to get into ruts and do what's familiar and comfortable. I think the quarantine is an excellent season for many of us to really step outside of the box and begin to start reaching out to people that we want to meet. What we do know is most people are at home right now, even though cities are starting to open up even here. A lot of people are at home. So there's a real opportunity that you could send an email to someone and just go, hey, I'd love to talk to you for 15 minutes and just, tell you what I'm doing and get some feedback. This is the time, I think, and I'm concerned that people may be missing so many opportunities in this season, because you really could reach out. I sent an email to a group in England and was just kind of like, hey, I see what you're doing, would love to collaborate. Well, guess what? It happened. We're collaborating and doing some things because she was at home. I mean, so there's some real opportunities just to get outside of your normal way of thinking and just send the email. Friend someone on LinkedIn and start sending messages. Don't become a stalker, but send messages and get to know people. Reach out, because now is the time to be able to really try some things. And if they don't work, it's okay. You move on and try something else, but come up with your list of the 3 to 5 people, that are in your network that you should, one, you want to leverage the relationship and go deeper, but who are the other 3 to 5 people that you really want to meet and that you have access to meeting, and send emails and see what happens. And they're going to be no's. That happens. But I promise you, you'll have more yeses if you go on and continue to do that. And when people say no, that's not a problem. No doesn't always mean no. Sometimes it's wait. And maybe the timing isn't right, but you never know what happens. And so just put yourself out there.
That's right. Even if you have to wear Speedos, put yourself out there, right?
Don't wear those. Don't. Well, you know what? In quarantine, you can, because you're on Zoom and no one can see. Just don't stand up. That would be my advice. You might not want to stand up, and don't go to the mailbox. There's this article about this dude who, I guess he had been on Zoom too long and forgot he hadn't dressed from the waist down, and he went to his mailbox and was in his underwear, and the police were called. And so in that instance, just don't go outside or stand up, but you can wear what you want to. It's your house.
Or at least just grab it quick and get back in the house.
I don't know if you've been that quick. Let me stop.
That's the thing. It's like he must have been out there for a long time or something.
Well, he might have had, the envelope opener, and he was tearing it apart, reading the mail outside. I don't know, but it sounds like he had done it a couple of times, so he was quite comfortable with the breeze and everything going on for him. He was happy, just happy, And so I would not advise that. That might not be the best way to lead in trying to build your social capital.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Got to build that publicity. Let me stop.
You might be building some other stuff. So my advice: be careful. I wouldn't advise you. You may get a career opportunity in a way you didn't imagine.
That's right.
Stop.
I knew folks are talking about pivoting for a reason.
Yeah, I'm going to stop. You're going to make this show turn from G to PG to R-rated. So I'm going to stop now.
Wouldn't be the first time.
I'm going to stop.
But yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So you got this fabulous, fabulous book out now where
Yes.
it talks about it's time to fly away. So why the wings? Why is it time to fly away?
This was a book for my daughter who at the time was getting ready to go to college. And like most parents, you start freaking out going, oh my God, I don't know if I taught you everything you need to know. And I might have screwed up some. And so you get concerned and you think, what did I not teach you, or what do I need to reinforce? And so for me, it was that, but it was also leaving legacy. So I wrote this series of lessons for my daughter. And it was really to, help her think about a number of things, your voice, and going to college and not losing who you are, but remembering what was important to you and using that as foundation. And so it's through a faith lens and helping her remember, her value and her voice and thinking about what next looks like. And so it's a 20 plus lessons. And like one of the lessons in the book is ask for what you want, because a man in a suit and tie just did. And I wanted her to be comfortable and knowing that at any table she wanted to be at, she could be there. And if she couldn't get there, then create your own. And so it's a workbook with lessons and affirmations and just something to help her as she went through this transition. But what has been so cool about it is I'm finding that a book that was written for young women has really resonated with women and men of a number of different ages because it speaks to where they are. And I think right now in the season that we're in with COVID, a lot of people are experiencing transition. And so what was designed to help her in college through a transition, I'm finding is helping other people who, are trying to find their way. It's been a really source of inspiration for them. And so, I tell people, reach out, because I sent out a chapter for free because I want people to know the vibe and the spirit of the book. And if it fits, great. If it doesn't, I understand. But reach out for that. And then I do a newsletter weekly where I'm talking to folks about my own personal experiences that week and sharing inspiration. It's just been something in this quarantine, some of the things that I'm learning, and I'm just sharing that out with people to help them. And again, it's through my faith lens, but a way to just help people in the season know that you're not alone, and some of the same struggles that you're going through, a lot of us are experiencing as well.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Helping them to fly away like an eagle and not a pigeon. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, and I often tell her you have to pay attention between eagles and chickens and who flies and who doesn't. And so, and who do you choose to surround yourself with? It's not that you think that you're better than anybody else, but it's also reaching for, the sky and surrounding yourself with people who have that type of vision as well. But remembering that there are people who are not going to go and fly off like that. And it doesn't mean they're any less important. but it's recognizing that there's value in each of those spaces.
That's right. That's right indeed. Yes, indeed. And that's so true. It's age old advice. It's kind of cliche, but it's so darn true because I mean, tell you who your other five friends are, tell you who you are.
Yes, it does. It does. And helping people, see the value of who you're around will really determine where you go. Just like, the cliche about your attitude determines your latitude. If everything is negative and bad, then you can't be surprised when your world begins to look that way. And so what I really was trying to push to her throughout the book was what you're saying is mindset. And how do you make sure that you have the right mindset and that you're around the right people that will allow you to create the right situations to have the life that you desire.
That's right. That's right. Desire doesn't have to all be in measurements either. That's what I'm talking
No,
about.
no.
That's right. And left indeed. So, since this isn't your first podcast rodeo, what's probably a question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're on interviews like this one?
For me, it's not even the question, it's the conversation. And I've been really fortunate to have amazing conversations that allow me not to just be salesy, because that's the thing I don't like is, and I know for a lot of people, it's coming on shows to sell. Mine is, I want people to get an opportunity to know and see me. And so I'm always excited when shows allow that kind of transparency and you're able to just talk about what's important to you. And so I appreciate you for giving the space to just share and talk about, the journey, and not just, hey, come on and tell me about your book. I think that's a piece of it. But if you can't connect the journey as to why the book is important, then I think people miss that. And so I appreciate you allowing me the space to be able to connect the dots in that way. And so it's not necessarily for me a question that I wish people would ask. It's more the experience that I wish shows would allow for, and I'm making sure that it connects the dots.
Ah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Polka dots no more. That's what I'm talking about.
You're coming up with all these slogans. I think you got a t-shirt business just thriving in you that's ready to roar.
I probably need to tap into that. Because if they're not on t-shirts, they're going to be in a dad joke book somewhere, probably.
And that's okay. There are a lot of dads who would enjoy wearing those shirts. I mean, especially now. So I think we got
Oh,
an
yeah.
entrepreneurial opportunity right here.
That's right. It'll be fit to a T. Yes, indeed.
And you came up with that right on. Okay, see, you're good.
Oh, yes, indeed. The chocolate's good. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
It is 10 o'clock in the morning. Stop.
That's the point. Get them while they're sleepy. That's the best time to get them because they all still waking up, and then hit them with some random joke out of nowhere, and they be all confused, like, what in the heck is he talking about?
You are a man.
But yeah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Definitely right about that because that's totally true. Because that's one of the aims of the show is to not only have a fun conversation, but also to make sure it's one of those places where hopefully the guest gets a chance to share some stuff they never shared before. Like they may have that secret marshmallow story that they never brought out, but you know what? It might be this time where they bring it out. I'm not saying you have a marshmallow story, but that's just a
No,
random
I
that
was
popped
thinking,
out.
I was like, nah, I don't think I have nah, I didn't have that story. Mm.
I'm gonna laugh if another guest in the future has a marshmallow story. It's gonna be so funny.
You'll have to call me or send me a text and go, you won't believe this. You'll not believe. And they're talking about marshmallows. You got to send that to me if it happens.
Ah, yes, duly noted. It'll be in the same lines when I told him I was a tree once, so it'll be perfect.
So wait, they took one of your branches and used the marshmallow to have the campfire.
Oh
I
wow,
can.
that's another layer. That's another layer to the tree joke. Oh God, no, because that wasn't even the original story, but now it's even gotten better. This is perfect. All right, I lo-
I was trying to connect the dots with it.
yeah, because what originally happened was it was on 420 when I was dancing with the other trees in the forest,
Okay,
and
that right there. Stop. 420. Enough said. Enough said. There you go. We already know what happened. Now the tree story makes even more sense. Okay. I got it. Enough said. The end.
so now you know I woke up as a black guy. All right, that's good.
I think you've been waking up as one. I don't think let me help you reality. I think you've been waking up as one, you know? But when that stops, you let me know about that one too. I'm sure a lot of people wanna talk to you about something different. And
Like
don't
no.
say it happened on 420 either, because then I'll go, the end. Yeah, I know what you woke up as.
That's right, the true burning bush indeed. Yep.
Stop.
Yep, continue. I got you. So, as with all
You are a mess.
oh man. But yes indeed, yes indeed. So coming down the pike here to the fabulous question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but this time in 2020 with all of your amassed knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
I would tell myself, don't sweat it. It's not as complicated as you are led to believe it is. Live. I think we end up telling ourselves, oh, I gotta have this by 30 and I gotta have this by 35. And you come up with all these lists of things. And in the process, you sometimes get so fixated on doing that stuff that you miss out on living. And so, I would tell my 25-year-old self, live, enjoy life, continue to have balance. But I think it's going to be important that as much as you want to strive and develop who you are in terms of what you leave in the world, part of that is enjoying the process. And I think some of us fight the process so much that we want the end result without understanding it is the process that makes you who you are. And that's what I would tell the 25-year-old me. Don't sweat it. Just go through the process and it's going to be okay.
Oh, yes, indeed, especially in the gym. Don't sweat it. That's right.
Well, not now during quarantine, especially. You don't want to sweat it. You better have your hand sanitizer with you before you do that, or touch anybody's sweat for that matter. So don't go to the gym, not with other people right now. And I would have to tell my 25-year-old self that, because if they were living during this time, they would go, why can't I go to the gym? So yeah, I would have to explain a lot of things.
Yeah, especially the part about this random marshmallow appearing next to a treadmill was crazy.
Yeah, on 420.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Yeah, that could be problematic right there. Huh.
Yeah, we got a golden guest today. We're on the wave, same wavelength. All right, I like this. All right, good. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. Solid advice. Just live. That's right. Just live, indeed. It's okay to not be 30 under 30. There's so many folks under 30. It's, there's many opportunities out there that await you. That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about, indeed.
just keep living. I mean, I think we are in this race, and you just keep living. And a lot of things you want so young, but I tell some of the young people I mentor, I spend a lot of time mentoring young folks and explaining to them that just do the work. Sometimes people get so caught up on the accolades and the titles and all that stuff. Do the work. And as you do the work and you build the body of work and you stay consistent, things happen, but just do the work. And sometimes things happen because you just have to keep living. It doesn't happen immediately. So be patient and just keep doing it and moving closer and closer to that goal. And if it doesn't happen immediately, that's okay. Just keep doing the work.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Keep doing the work. That's right. That good work. That's right. Yes,
I was waiting on
indeed.
you to go all sookie. Now I was just waiting on it. I knew it was coming. I just felt it, and you disappointed me.
Darn. All right. Well, I'll take the L for that moment. It'll become a lesson for later.
You're a hoot.
Indeed. So for those who want to keep in magical contact with the good doctor herself, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you?
They can send me an email at info@Dr. Froswa, which is spelled F as in Frank, ROS as in Sam, WA.com. So info@drfroswa.com. You can find my website at drfroswa.com. So look me up. I am responsive. Always enjoy connecting to people and figuring out ways that we can work together and make this place better while we're in it.
Woohoo! That's what I'm talking about, folks. Head over to that fabulous site. Grab all the copies of her magical books. Share with your friends, your cat, your family. Share it with people. Got to spread this butter around, baby. Got to spread it around.
Yes. Now you're
Yes,
gonna say that. Now I'm gonna say that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yeah, this has definitely been fun on the bun, indeed. That's right. In this case, honey bun. That's right.
You're
Oh,
so funny. But I am grateful to meet you and for the opportunity to share a little bit about what's important to me. So thank you.
oh, my pleasure indeed. My pleasure indeed. So, any parting words to the folks still listening?
I would tell them stay away from 420. That I'm so glad it's passed, so you got another year to get it together and get it right. But in all seriousness, use this time while we are confined to some degree. Use this time to really think about purpose and passion and how can you create what you want your life to look like. I think this is an opportunity for many of us to do a reset. And so how do you use this to build the relationships you want, the life that you want? What does that look like? And now you have the space to actually create and co-create that. And so I would encourage people to take advantage of the space that we've been given versus focusing on how negative and bad it is and all the horrible things that we hear. And yes, those things do exist. Again, it goes back to that both and. We know that's there, but in the same realm, there are opportunities that we can create for ourselves to make this place better and make ourselves better. So use the time wisely to do just that.
Thanks a bunch for your listening ears on the Going North podcast. I hope you really, really enjoyed that episode. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to share it with your friends and family, especially those who love podcasts and love listening to some inspiration and motivation.